And my first drug was butane, sucking butane out of this like lighter fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like my first thing that I've ever done.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it was big. I mean, apparently back then it was a thing
for the skater emo kids.
Well, yeah, I guess so.
Welcome back to another episode of Tales from the Grips. I'm your host, Brian, and I'm here with very special guest, Rob P.
Yes, sir.
Rob P. Rob P. is from St. Pete.
Yep.
I'm here in Tampa, so I'm not familiar with all the areas, which is why the podcast is like set up in a different location. Thanks to Rob, we got a nice light in here, and helping me put everything together, man. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
It is absolutely a pleasure. I had shared with you before that I'd been watching you like from afar on Facebook, and your life has been from afar intriguing, and somebody that like not only wanted to like get on for the podcast for other people to hear, because I don't really know you that well,
right?
But somebody I would also like to get to know a little better. I don't know. I feel like there's something that goes on about, God leads you or pushes you, whatever you believe in, like pushes you towards like meeting new people, and building relationships, man. So it is an absolute pleasure to have you, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here, man.
Thank you.
Looking forward to this.
Thank you. Yeah. I did see on there that you were just recognized in a magazine.
Yeah. I actually got one of my photos featured on the cover of a local Tampa magazine called Be Local South Tampa. So
yeah,
it's pretty dope.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
It feels good, huh? When you see that.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, Rob is a photographer, very good photographer.
Thank you.
Interesting type of photography too, and I find it really cool. So I will have a link for his page, his Instagram page, and his your website in the description.
Very cool.
Yes, sir. So what's your clean date?
October 15th, 2011.
2011.
Yeah.
Wow. And when we were talking, we were talking about clean dates, and you was like, "Oh, you got more time than me."
I had no idea, bro. Yeah, because like you said, we don't really know each other that well, and around the same time, I thought we had about the same. Maybe I thought you had less. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's just cool like that. So you got like about 3.5 more, right? You have 15.
Yeah, 15.
So I'll have 12 in October, God willing.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's a long time.
It is. It's like a long time, but it's not a long time.
It goes fast.
Yeah. It's crazy, man.
Yeah,
it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. It goes. It's weird because that's life and everything, though, with kids and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. You're like, man, I can't believe it's been 10 years. Now I realize, when I was younger and people were like, time goes so older people. Yeah. And you're like, I get that shit now.
It goes by so fast now.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So you're a father?
I'm a father of two.
Two
beautiful, amazing daughters.
Yeah.
6 and 4.
Yeah. That's incredible. That's awesome ages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know about the 6, but I have, the almost 4-year-old. And, man, I couldn't imagine. I love my daughter, and she's so much fun. Yeah. But it is so much work.
Right.
Like having a kid. And
times 2.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
It's a lot. But, it's a lot. Because a lot of the things that you do are double. Like in the beginning, like you have to get 2 girls ready, you have to make 2 lunches, do all this stuff. But like now that they're at the age that they're at, they're pretty self-sufficient. Not meaning they do everything, but like they can get dressed themselves, they can brush their teeth, they do all that stuff, and then they kind of keep each other company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it is it's a heavy load.
However, I have a fiance now, and she does so much for us, and it's been a huge help. I probably would have pulled my hair out by now if I didn't have the help that I have, man. And it really does take a village.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. No, after having a kid, I remember going through like nursing school, and people would be like, the stories that you would hear, like, I was a mom and going to school, and now I'm like, how did you do it?
Right.
Because it take if you're doing it right, if you're trying to do it right, it takes a lot of time.
It does.
It takes a lot of time. So you want to tell us a little bit about your story?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Did you grow up here in
So
Tampa?
I was born and raised in St. Pete.
Okay.
I moved around a lot as a kid. My family is from upstate New York, Rochester, New York. So when I was like 5 years old, my parents got a divorce. And my mom wanted to move back to Rochester. So I lived there for about 3 years when I was a kid, moved around a little bit while I was there. My dad came back to upstate New York. And when I was 8, my mom moved to Atlanta, Georgia. Well, outside of Atlanta, in Lawrenceville, if anybody knows where that is. It's outside of Atlanta. Excuse me. And then I stayed there for about 4 years. And then when I was 12, I moved back to St. Pete, and I've been back ever since. So, that part of not really ever fitting in and all that stuff, like I was always the new kid because I always moved around. But I got good at making friends. You know what I mean? Every time I went somewhere or went to a new school, it was awkward, but like it got easier. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's like the moving around part. Pretty normal childhood, divorced parents. A lot of people dealt with that. If we fast forward a little bit to I grew up skateboarding and all that stuff. Like that was my thing, like for a long, long time. And I think I tried my first drug when I was 14. And my first drug was butane, sucking butane out of this like lighter fluid.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like my first thing that I've ever done.
And I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, it was big. I mean, apparently back then it was a thing
for the skater emo kids.
Well, yeah, I guess so. So I did that, and I definitely felt different. And it was like the you make your head do that.
So like huffing gas.
It's
similar,
essentially the same thing. And then not too long after that, I tried smoking weed, which that was fun. Not long after that, well, I had probably drank before that. And then that was kind of my thing for a little while, just smoke and drink. I never was one of those guys that went to school high or drunk or anything like that. But not long after that, I tried hallucinogenics. And started doing that every weekend, stuff like that. But I did, I maintained, like, I don't think I was an addict at that point. It was just, regular school, recreational using, weekend warrior type stuff. But then when I started, I finished high school, and like that was around, like I graduated in 94. So that's like when the rave scene was really hard in like Tampa.
94?
Yeah, I graduated in 94. You didn't know I was old?
How old are you?
I'll be 47 in April.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You look so young.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
The opiates kept me young. That's what I always say. So, that when the rave scene hit, like I started taking the drug that went with that, with the lights, whatever. And I thought I had arrived. Like that was like, I never felt like that. And I wanted to feel like that all the time. So that was my thing for a long time. And I was I got into the dancing part. And I didn't do really the rave dance stuff, but I got into, cause like breakdancing was kind of big then. And I got into that, and that's what I did. I all my inhibitions were gone. Like I didn't care what anybody thought, and I made a fool of myself out there until I got good. And then like that's what I was doing. I was dancing every weekend. And, the lights and everything, and that was like a good time for me. As far as my using days went, like those were the good times, except for when you're coming down off of that drug. then you get that depression that just you don't want to feel like that anymore, you know? Like, I don't really know how else to explain it except for like, you just feel down and depressed.
A gnawing feeling.
It's just not good. And then, you know, I just would look forward every weekend to that, you know, and it was like a 3 a.m. thing. That's when the rave started. So, you know, in that time frame, I had pharmaceutically fell in love with this girl, and she ended up being my first wife. We got together when I was about 20 years old. We stayed together for about 5 years. We ended up getting married after 5 years, and we were married for 3. And it wasn't a good thing. I felt like I was in marriage prison. It just wasn't good. But in that time frame, like, you know, I had tried other drugs. And at that time, I had friends that I grew up with that were, you know, selling drugs. And I felt like I was missing out, right? Like I was just doing the married life and all this stuff. And I seen like from afar, like my friends, like they're just living it up. They're selling drugs. They're going out. They're partying. They're driving nice cars. You know, all this stuff. And like I was attracted to that, but I was like over here, like not being able to do it. So we were together for 8 years, married for 3. I was miserable basically the whole time. We ended up getting a divorce, and I ended up going and being with them because that's what I was attracted to and I was after. So I started doing what they were doing. I started, you know, I hit the ground running, you know what I mean? I felt like I had 8 years to make up on, you know? So like I started selling drugs. I started going, you know, doing all the things that they were doing. And that was like another, at the time, it was like a highlight for me, like of my life. Like I was living the dream then, you know? And it was a good time. I made a lot of money, sold a lot of drugs. But in that, I'm also doing the drugs, right? So, I'm doing the drug that I'm selling, staying up all night. I'm taking something to go to sleep. As soon as I wake up, I'm taking something to get going, right? And that was like the cycle. And I didn't realize at the time that I was becoming a habit, right? Because I was making money, I was doing good, bills were paid, you know.
No major consequences.
No consequences at all.
Yeah.
You know, me and my dad are partners in a business in which we still are today. But I was working for him. So I was like I was working every day, no matter how much sleep I got, I'd still went to work. And I was proud of that. Like, I didn't go to sleep, but I'm still going to work, you know?
Well, when you're high, you can like
do whatever you want.
You like be tired and then you get high and you're like, all right, time to go.
Yeah, time to go. So like I said, like I was in this vicious cycle of like, you know, like I said, taking the drugs at night, taking something to go to sleep, taking something to wake up. And I said all that to say like, it was all free. You know, it didn't cost me anything. I definitely wasn't paying for anything. I was either trading it or I was just it was given to me. And I was making a lot of money, so it didn't matter. So fast forward a little bit, you know, I did that for like 2 or 3 years. You know, saved up enough money to like, you know, acquire some things, and I traveled a lot. And like I said, like that was like really good. It was a good life. But then the guy that I grew up with, he ended up getting busted, which he was the guy who was providing everything. And then once he got busted, the drugs stopped coming in. And now I realize like, oh shit, I have this habit that I have to feed. So the drugs weren't there anymore. They weren't free. You know, I had money. So I was like starting to buy drugs. And then at this point, like I was introduced to the drug that would take me to my knees. You know, and the first time I took this drug, I got sick. And the first time I tried to stop taking this drug, I got sick. And this is where it starts to like not. It wasn't good anymore.
What do you mind saying? What drug that was?
Yeah, it was opiates.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'm so used to being in meetings and not like talking about the actual. So yeah, it was opiates, and like just the littlest piece would knock me down, and then the tolerance would build up, and then this is where like I knew, even like the first few times I did it, and the first time I tried to stop doing it, I was like, okay, this is probably going to be a problem. But at that point, and where I was in my life, like I had bought the house, and what started happening is things started getting pushed aside, and it was all about having enough money to buy the dope. So lo and behold, like I stopped paying my mortgage. Like I said, I mean, literally everything that I could make at work or whatever went to the dope. And I wasn't raised like that. I was raised with morals, values, honesty, respect, integrity, all that, all the spiritual principles that we live by today. Like I was taught that stuff, and that stuff started going out the window.
So you don't have like the disease of addiction doesn't really run in your family? Because I find it to be for a lot of us.
Well, my mom's one of us. So, there's that. My sister, she's one of us, but she doesn't think she is, that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, now my dad's not an addict, but my mom is. So, I mean, there's probably, that gene or, whatever.
Yeah.
So, where was I?
Raised with morals and values.
Yeah, I was raised with morals and values, but all that stuff like started to go out the window. It was lie, cheat, rob, manipulate anybody that I could. I wasn't one of those. I didn't get to the point as a yet. You're eligible to. I wasn't robbing anybody at gunpoint or doing anything like that violently. But it was like, if you love me, you pay the price. Like if like my grandmother, God rest her soul, for instance, I would manipulate her. My phone bill's due. I need some money. It was that kind of stuff. The stuff that is wrong, but you still got to do it no matter what. It lie, cheat, manipulate, steal, whatever it takes to get the next one. And then like my house was in foreclosure, and I would have people move in with me that I didn't even really know, get the money just so I had extra money to buy more drugs. You know what I mean? That's just that's how it went for like a few years. And then there was a time where there were a few times where I think the first time that I got introduced to like going to a meeting was somebody brought me, and I was like, all right, I'll go. Cause they, people that you grew up with and they're like, you probably need to get some help, cause I started noticing like some of my friends that I grew up with that I've been friends for years, didn't want anything to do with me.
Yeah.
Whether it was the way that I looked, the way that I acted, or, it sounded on the phone, it would probably be annoying. So anyways, I got introduced to my first meeting at a 12-step fellowship.
How old were you then?
Probably 31, something like that. I think it was like 07, So I think I was like 31, went to my first meeting, and like I looked around the room and I was just like, nah, bro, this ain't me. Like
I'm better than this.
I ain't as old as you. I don't look like you. I ain't sell my ass. You know what I mean? Like I was looking at all the differences,
Of course.
But knew that I probably should be there, deep down. Like if I was willing to go, like I knew there was a problem there.
Yeah.
But the good thing about that is like, I saw that there was a place that people were going to get help. Actually, the first person that brought me to a meeting was one of my guys that I grew up with. His brother was a part of the fellowship, and he's the one who took me. And I wasn't ready yet.
Yeah.
So, going through the motions, like, the house is in foreclosure. I get introduced to a meeting. Definitely not done yet. Definitely, I ended up like having to leave the house I was in because I just couldn't. I had to get out of there. I ended up going to stay with my mom's ex-husband, who's like my ex-stepdad, which he's always been around ever since I was younger. He allowed me to come and live with him, and so I had to do like a short sale on the house, which is kind of good because I didn't lose everything,
Yeah.
So, there we go. Consequences of my using. I'm living with him, and it's the same old snake behavior, man. Like I wake up in the morning and I'm like crawling on the side of his bed to get to the nightstand to get the 50 out of his wallet, that kind of stuff, like that sneaky, snaky, just typical addict behavior, like this man's allowing me to stay in his house, but I'm going to take from him,
Yeah.
At the time though, I wasn't thinking like that, it was just about like, I got to get one. He allowed me to stay there rent free, which I don't even know how that even worked out. But it got to the point to where like, okay, so now we're, 2 years after that. I've been to a few meetings. I've been in and out. You know what I mean? I never did anything that was suggested. I would go. I'd go for like my family. I'd go for my friends. I never went to try to get help for myself. So like 2009, I remember feeling like, man, I'm tired of this, I'm tired of feeling like this. I'm tired of going through all this. So I didn't know what else to do. So I called the cops on myself, and like, they brought me to this, like, it was called PEMS. It was like a mental health place or whatever. Yeah.
What'd you tell him? You want to kill yourself?
I told him, I was like, man, I can't stop using it. I need help, and they took me to that place. And as soon as I got there, I was like, oh shit, I'm in the wrong place. Like, this is not,
I am fucked up.
Yeah. I am definitely not where these people are at, for sure. So I was able to get out of there. I went back to his house, and then the same guy that brought me to my first meeting, was like, why don't you go here? And he took me to this place called the Turning Point. And it was a non-medical detox / homeless shelter, but like, you have to be clean to get in, or you have to be clean after you get in. Like you have to be high to get in there.
Yeah.
But like, you have to go in there, and like, it's like a transition, like a place where you would go to detox, but it's like non-medical. So like, I remember going in there and like, and I had tried numerous times, obviously, to kick and to, go through the detox myself. And I had done that like numerous times before then. So
it's not like a regular detox.
It ain't no detox.
They don't give you any medication.
They don't give you anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was that guy. I've never been medically detoxed. It was always like, I'm going to white knuckle it and get down, and I'm going to die for a few days, and, I'm going to be okay. And I tried other, harm reduction. I tried Suboxone, I tried methadone, all that stuff. I've sniffed those to try to make it work better. Yeah. It's ridiculous. Actually, it's the worst thing I've ever done.
The worst burning feeling ever.
Yeah, okay, so
I plead the fifth.
So like, that was like, okay, good. I'm glad I'm not alone here, because that was the worst thing that I think I've ever done, bro. So like, I go into this facility, and like, I had never done anything like this before. And, I'm one of those addicts that, like, I know that this isn't a lot of people's story, but like, jail's not a part of my story. Like, I don't know if it was God's will for me not to go to jail, or my ego wants to tell me that like I was just that good. You know what I'm saying? I know that's not true.
Yeah.
But so like, this was like the first time that I've ever been in this kind of situation. And I remember I kicked dope on the mat at this place. and I started to feel better. And you have to stay inside this facility for 2 weeks. Now you can leave if you want, but if you leave, you can't come back.
Yeah.
So
they don't make you go to the hospital or anything like that first to like
no,
if you get like super sick.
no. I mean, there were people that like left, or like were in medical need. I wasn't. So I just, I went through the DTs there. I went to all their meetings. They had in-house meetings, and there was like 6 or 7 a day. And after 2 weeks, you can go out, go look for a job or whatever. But see, here's the thing. I hadn't got clean yet. And as soon as I was able to leave that facility, I went and I got high. I went back. I said I was clean. I did the 30 days there, or 28 days. I got into they got this other place called the Mustard Seed. I went there. It was like a transitional, like halfway house, if you will. Long story short, I ended up staying there for a couple weeks, and I got kicked out because I couldn't stay clean. So I went back to my stepdad's house.
It's so weird is like when you have the disease of addiction, you leave, like you'll get like 30 days off and you'd be like, we're very, we exaggerate a lot when we are in meetings, but it is like the reality is like, you're like, you feel great. Like I got 30 days. Yeah, I feel great. I can control this now. You don't really, I've never told myself I can control this, but subconsciously I'm like,
oh, I got this.
I'm good now.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. I'm
ready
to go.
I'm recovered.
Yeah.
I'm not like you anymore. I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, ended up going back to my stepdad's house, which I'm very grateful that he allowed me to come back there. But it just allowed me to continue using and not having to pay rent. And crossed a lot of lines in the sand that I said I would never do. Towards the next 2 years were just the same old sad story. Always late to work. I don't even know why my father allowed me to be a part of his business or our business. When I can't even, I'm underneath the car nodding out. You know what I mean? Every day there was an excuse. Why I'm late. Some days I always showed up, but I was usually late. I just couldn't manage my life. So I'm in and out, in the next 2 years, I'm in and out, like just doing whatever it took to get the next one. And up until this point, like I never shot up. But I got introduced to that, and, it wasn't really my thing. I enjoyed it. It was great, but it like I was, I was addicted to like the sniffing. Like I just wanted to sniff everything. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like I felt like I wasn't getting what I was really looking for every time I'd bang or whatever, which I'm kind of grateful for that. So, but like that was like another one of those things where I'll never do that, and I did. So fast forward, I think it was like April of 2011, when I'd been going in and out, but not a lot. Like I never stayed. So I was like, man, if I'm gonna get help, I know where to go. I'd come around enough to meet some people, so it wasn't so awkward when I first got there. It's like I saw some familiar faces.
There's Rob again.
Yeah, there's that guy. So I was going to the meetings. I was high, but I was like, I needed to be there. Yeah. And like people would come up to me, "Are you high?" I'm like, "Yeah, man, I need to be here because I'm gonna die." Yeah. And at this point, people that I was using with. Were starting to fall off. Like people were just starting to die, And I remember, I don't even know why, but I was sitting in my bedroom at my stepdad's house, and I was journaling, but I was lit. You know what I mean? But I was like, I need to get help, or I'm gonna die. And not like right after that, this girl in the program. Girl, mind you, she was like, when are you gonna when are you going to do this shit? When are you going to grab your nuts and get clean? You know? And I was like, God damn. Like, this girl just called me out. And some things fell into place. And this lady, her name is Jackie O. She offered, she was like, why don't you come to my house and you can detox on my couch. And I was just like, oh, I don't know about that. You know, like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. But then, like, what that girl had said to me, like, kind of stuck in my head. And I was like, all right. She's like, you can come over the night before, get acclimated, and then, you know, you can start and I'll help you. And I was like, okay. So obviously I had to get 1 more, 2 more, 3 more before I went over there. So I went to her house and I'm lit. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And I woke up the next morning. I was at her house, and one of my cousins called, and he was like, I just got back from the doctor. And I was like, I'm on my way. So, like, I left her house, went over there, shared a needle, which is something that I never said I would do. And I did that. And I went back and forth from her house to his house 5 times that day. And then I was like, all right, that's it. That's it. I'm at her house. I woke up the next day and I started on the journey. This was June 11th, 2011.
Yeah, real quick, I would just say it made me think about, like, when you were talking about, like, sharing the needle, you know, all those things where we say we wouldn't do, and, like, the demoralization that comes with, like, using. And you know, for people that like may watch the podcast, and I had an uncle, and his son was an addict. It was kind of like the same thing, step uncle, I guess. And he was like, just no means no. You just don't do it, you know. And he didn't understand,
right?
You know, which I was already clean. He was talking about his son. I was like, it just doesn't work like that, you know. They're like that demoralization that comes with, you know, you want this, like you say, you're going to meetings, like you want this. It's just something inside of you feels like that just won't work for me. It just won't work for me. Like I'm either too far, or like you don't understand. You don't feel like there's something in your brain that just is like, you know, just tells you that you just can't get clean. You know, that it just won't work for you. And it just made me think about that. Well, sorry about that. Okay. When you were talking about sharing the needle, doing the things that you always, that you, like the standards you set for yourself using, you know, that you.
It's terrible, man.
Yeah.
And it's really true. And I never really understood it until it was like, this doesn't really work for people who need it. Because most people need it. It works for the people who want it. You know, like you have to be. I had to be done.
Yeah.
For this to take place, like I had to be done. I had to be willing and ready to stop it for this process to work. So that, you know, when I woke up that morning, I was already dope sick. You know, because my stuff kicks in always so fast. Like, you know, I always got sick quick. I went to my first meeting. I picked up a white key tag, you know, probably not even 24 hours clean. And I'm just like shaking and shivering in the meeting. And that was like where my process started, like to actually do it for me, and for myself.
Where was you kicking at? Was you still at that lady's
I was
house?
This was at her house, but like I probably shouldn't have left, but like I was just like, man, I don't want to just sit here. And like she took me to the meeting, so I went to the meeting, and like that's why I said I picked up my first white key tag, and I started that day is when I started on that process. And I know that most people's experience has been different, but when I said, like, because you know I started praying like right away, and I was just like, okay, I'm done. I give up. I can't do this on my own. I need help. I surrender when I said that and I did that and I picked up that white key tag and that was like my sign of surrender, like my obsession to use like was lifted, which was so very amazing because you and most of us know like that obsession and compulsion is like the killer, right? Like I didn't think about it, like it just went away. Yeah. It was like that's why I say it was definitely a God thing for me.
Yeah. Do you think that, I'm not, I'm not trying to, I'm curious. Do you think that it was like, I don't want to say magical and make it sound like I'm, making fun of the situation or taking it lightly, but do you think it was, like, as best, for lack of better words, like a magical, like God thing that he just lifted the desire? Or do you think that the pain of using had become so great that it just was something that, repulsed you to want to do anymore?
I honestly don't know. I would say it was probably a little bit of both, but for my obsession to be lifted like it was, I mean, for lack of better terms, I guess I would say that it was somewhat magical. You know what I mean? Because anytime before that, it was the never-ending stream of thoughts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was like that was gone.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful for that. You know what I mean? So I started doing the things that people said. I went to a meeting, and when I went to a morning meeting, and there was this guy there, and he said, if you woke up and got high, you should wake up and go to a meeting. And I was like, that resonated with me because I woke up and got high every day. And I was like, oh, okay, I get that. So like, I started going to this morning meeting. It's called Morning Serenity. And then I would go to the noon. And at this point, like, I was still working for my dad, and he understood that I needed to be around these people in these meetings. So he would allow me to go at noon. I would come in a little bit later so I could go to the morning meeting. I'd go to the 6:30, and then I would go to the 8. And that was kind of my thing in the beginning, because like I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I was afraid. I was afraid to be alone, first of all.
Yeah.
Because the cliche, like I was the last person I got high with. You know what I mean? So I was afraid to be alone, and for some reason, I still had a car. A lot of us don't. I just always was able to maintain that. The phone, the car, and once in a while the insurance on the car. You know what I mean? Just so I could, because if I didn't have a car, I couldn't get around and I couldn't move the way I needed to move or whatever. So that was my process. And then like I joined the home group. I made that morning meeting my home group, and I started becoming a part of there. Now it started to feel like I was a part of something. I started to feel better. I started, where we gained self-esteem by doing esteemable things, and like I started to feel better. I think I got my first like 4 or 5 hours of sleep after like 30 days. You know what I mean? So like I was like, okay, like I'm starting to feel better. I got a sponsor. I started working steps, and like I started to like really feel better. So like that's like 30, 60 days clean, and a real true 30, 60 days that I'd never had before. And it was amazing. And like I could start to, like I said, I was feeling better. But then I ended up getting into a relationship right early on, and exactly what they tell us. So not you weren't
doing everything that they said.
Yeah. Well, like a good addict, I want to take the focus off of me and put it on her.
Wake up from the waist down.
Mm-hmm. So I did that, and I think she had like 18 months. I had like 30, 60 days, something like that.
Oh wow,
she was 13 stepping. So we got together, and everything was going well because we were going to meetings together. She was doing her thing, I was doing my thing. And then it was like I had about almost 4 months clean. It was like the day before I had 4 months clean. And, you know, I continued to go to meetings. I was still doing all the things I was doing. You know, I did like 300 meetings in 90 days. Cause like, that was like my thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had just joined H&I. Cause like, that's what my sponsor at the time was the chair of H&I. So he was like, you got to do H&I. So I was doing H&I for like almost a month. So I was like fully invested, fully in the boat. And the day before I had 4 months, I was at work one day and I saw some things take place, and I was just like, something triggered me. And that obsession to use came back. Notice I didn't snap very hard because I don't want to make it microphone
okay.
pop.
Yeah, you're right.
That obsession to use came back, and it was like, it came out of nowhere. And I didn't practice anything that I had learned in those first almost 4 months. I didn't call my sponsor. I didn't call a friend. I didn't do anything except as soon as that obsession hit, I knew exactly who to call, and I did that. And I got I got a drug that I knew that if I did that drug, cocaine, we'll just say it.
Yeah.
If I did cocaine, that I would get opiates eventually. So like, I set myself up for that because I don't know what the reasoning was, but I knew that I could get that quick. So I got that, I did it, and I felt like guilty, and I felt terrible because like you know, everything that I worked for that almost 4 months is gone. But then like I did that drug, and then I got my pills, and then I was right back to, you know, the girl that I was with. Like, I think we were already living together by then, dude. Like, it's fucking crazy.
Moving fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She asked, you know, are you high? And I was like, no, I'm not. No. So it was right back to the same old behavior.
Well, you can't tell the truth.
Yeah. No. And like, I told myself while I was high, I was like, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to know. I can hide this, you know, whatever.
Yeah. There's something about like the disease of addiction. It'll talk you into using, like, you know, it's a good idea, or nobody will know, or all this different stuff. And then soon as you use, it'll say, look what you did.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you piece of crap. You messed up.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well
keep it going.
You might as well keep going now. You can't stay clean.
Yep.
You know?
And that guilt will keep you going.
Yeah.
That guilt, man. So I ended up picking up a white key tag that night. And I did that every day for 7 days. I'd lie, pick up a white key tag, lie, pick up a white key tag. And I was just like, man, I remember the saying, like, just keep coming back no matter what. No matter what, just keep coming back. So I did that because I knew deep down that if I didn't go and at least pick up that white key tag, even if I was high, that I may not make it back. And the last day that I used, or there was something that happened. Like I woke up in the morning and I was already sick, and I was trying all day to get some, and the guy just wasn't answering, or I couldn't get it. And I remember falling asleep at my girl's house, and like I was like, all right, I'll just take a nap, try to sleep it off a little bit, and I'll wake up and I'll get some when I wake up. I had every intention on doing that. I guess what happened while I was sleeping, the dude called me, and she saw, and she like erased the number. So like I woke up and I went to go look, and I was like, oh shit, the contact's gone. What did I do? And like I went to her and I was like, see, look, I haven't tried to get high all day, you know, try to do that. And then she was like, that's funny because I deleted the number. You know, it's like I got caught, you know, right then and there.
How did she know it was the dope man's number?
Because it was under
You write dope man next to it?
No. She probably recognized that it was a different number, or she probably was going through my phone and maybe saw a text message because I thought I was slick.
Like, it was a girl or the dope man? Erase this number.
No. It was definitely the guy I was trying to get it from. So I say all that to say, like, I was still in that mentality of like just lying and like, you know, but she was like, that's funny because I deleted the number, and, you know, little did I know at the time, like she literally saved my life. Because that night I went to a meeting called Life's a Beach in St. Pete. Have you been?
Name.
Yeah. Life's a Beach. It's literally like off the beach. And I picked up my last white key tag, and it was October 15th, 2011. Wow. It was a Saturday night. And I didn't feel as good as I did when I did it the first time. I struggled a little bit more with the obsession and the thinking about it and feeling down, and whether I was or not, I don't know. It was probably my perception, but I felt judged, you know, like people were looking down on me, but really that's probably my own perception. But I kept coming back no matter what. And I didn't stop. Like I still had the same home group. I still had the same sponsor. I just had to I'd started over again. Started working steps again, started getting involved. And like, I didn't really feel happy until I got past where I was before. Like when I got my 6-month key tag, I was just like, okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel good now.
Yeah.
So things started to get better, man. I was actually still with the same girl. You know, I got to introduce my sponsor at Frickna at a speaking thing. That's pretty cool. So I was like getting super involved in the program. And at this time, like, so I had like 6 months. You know, I'd always been into like hip hop music, right?
Yeah.
And like some people in the fellowship had heard some of my stuff, and they were like, "Oh man, that's pretty good. You should do something with that." I was like, "No," because like I wasn't really big on letting people know, because like I was afraid. I was in fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, fear of being judged, all this stuff.
So you were doing like rapping a little bit before?
Yeah.
You
always.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had stuff on CD and stuff like that, or tape.
Literally,
you're a little older.
I definitely had stuff on tape. But I did have stuff on CD, or an MP3 player.
Yeah.
And I'd let them hear some, and it wasn't really anything like recorded well or anything, but just, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But they were like, well, you should do something with this. And then at that time, a friend of ours in the fellowship used to throw a Christmas party, and you know, it was like a toy drive Christmas party, and there was this local guy that was going to perform at this party, a hip hop guy, and his name was Infinite Skills at the time. And they were like, and one of my guys that's no longer with us, God rest his soul, Matt Darren, he was like, you're going to open up at this show, at this party, you're going to open up. And I was like, no, I'm not. No, don't do that, bro. I'm not, you know, because I was scared, and I didn't believe that I was good enough. I didn't believe in myself at all. And I had now, you know, fast forward a little bit, I had about a year clean when they were talking about this. So I agreed, and I had started like putting some stuff together. Like, so I got like the fire lit, right? So I had some old stuff, and I ended up doing some, like, I think I had like 1 or 2 new songs. And I ended up performing, and I was so scared. Like, I was, the microphone was like this in my hand. I was like, literally, but I got through it. I did it. And, like, I had this overwhelming feeling of like, wow, you know, an accomplishment, you know, like something that I've always wanted to do. and like there was like 100 people there in this guy's front yard. It was kind of a lot.
Yeah.
And like everybody kind of like was, I don't want to say it from an ego, but they were like kind of blown away, and they were like, wow, that was really good. You should, do something. So that was like the piece where like people believed in me until I believed in myself. Like that was like the push. And, that's where like I started, really pushing, doing shows, and then this is the cool part. Well, there's a lot of cool parts to this, but like, I started making shirts, and people in the fellowship would buy these shirts, and like I'd start doing shows, and I would start selling tickets. And that ended up being like my little niche. Like I was able to sell a lot of tickets and sell shirts, and people would wear these shirts to the shows, and like we would roll out together like 100 people. Yeah. So like that started a buzz, locally, like who the hell is Rival? You know what I mean? Like, and it was such a good time, man, to like look out into the crowd and see all your it was like family at the time, like people in the fellowship was like family, and they're wearing your shirt and they're saying your lyrics, and it's like, wow, this is really cool. And then I started opening up for national artists, and all these same people would come to the shows. Like, can I say the names?
Yeah.
So it was like, I opened up for Mobb Deep.
Wow.
DMX.
Yeah.
Redman and Method Man. KRS-One. The Locks. Hobson. The list goes on. Yeah. And like stuff people I grew up listening to. You know what I mean? And
that's insane.
It was really cool, man. It was that'd
be a surreal experience. I grew up listening to DMX.
Yeah. Well, the first time he didn't show up.
Yeah.
Go
He's
figure.
Getting high.
Yeah, he was. He definitely was. And
I'd been like, "Can you give me a bark?"
So the good of the bad of that is he didn't show up, so I ended up like headlining that show at like a very well-known place in St. Pete. You ever heard of Janice Landing?
No,
It's like a real big outdoor venue. Anyways, some sold out shows, 2,000-3,000 people. But yeah, the one
that's a lot.
It was a lot. It was such a good time, and like to be able to have like that support, from the people in the fellowship. Like that's the only reason. That's more than half the reason why that many people showed up. Is like we just did it together, and it was a really, really cool experience. And I can't thank all of Team Rival enough. You know who you are.
That was
that
like
experience.
Yeah, that was the first time I seen you, met you, or heard of you. It was at a thing where you did a show,
right?
And it was exactly how you said. Everybody's got your shirts on, and I was like, "What the hell is this?
What is this?
Who does this guy think he is?"
Yeah.
I've never been like that, but it's exciting. It's like that's pretty cool.
It was cool, man.
And I'll be honest, the video was like. The video was awesome.
Yeah.
Like everything. Because there was like I remember there being like a cool video, right?
Yeah. It was actually the video for this song, Monster Inside.
Yeah. And I will put that. Do you have that on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
It is? I'll put it in the link in the description.
Yeah. I think if nobody's seen it, like, and they're one of us, they can definitely relate. Like the good thing about the music that I did was from the heart. It reached the heart, and it was the message. You know what I mean? Like that's what I knew about, so that's what I wrote about. You know, how it was, and
And it's not just people that what I found from doing this podcast, and I've asked a lot of people, like people that aren't in the fellowship. I haven't asked a lot, but a few people that aren't in the fellowship, to like, hey, check it out. What do you think? And a lot of people find it interesting. So I'm sure it's the same with the music. It's not just a hey, rappers rap about getting high all the time. So,
right.
And people love that. So people rapping about not using or the horrors of using.
Right. It was all there. It was all there. It was like, but for me, I really tried to have the message in the music, so that people could understand that, like, we do get better.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the cool part about it.
How much time clean did you have
at the time?
You had the year when you did the show, and then once you're doing all this other stuff.
So actually, when I did the show, it was about I think I had about 15 months at the time, or 14 months, something like that. So you know, going into my second year clean, like I think I had about 18 months or so when I started doing these shows.
Okay.
So I was still early in recovery. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it was just the right timing, man. It was just really cool to experience that. So I had that going for me, and that was really awesome. And then, you know, fast forward a little bit, I'm still in recovery, still doing my thing. The girl that I was with in the beginning, we were still together. You know, found out that she was cheating on me. We had about 3.5 years clean. I had about 3.5 years clean at the time. And that was like the first thing that, besides, you know, friends dying and stuff like that, that I had to deal with clean. And I remember when I was going through that, like, that's a real good avenue for us addicts to use as an excuse to use. And what I did is I just picked up the phone and I called other addicts, and I stayed on the phone and I stayed talking about it. Cause at that point, like, I had learned some tools and stuff. And like, I was a real big proponent of, if I talk about what's going on, it gives it less power. Right. So like, I just stayed on the phone and I talked about it and I got through it. And I didn't get high. She didn't get high. And I was able to move on. So like, you know, I've always been like a people pleaser, you know, stay around longer than I should. You know, and there was probably some things that I wasn't happy with in the relationship, that I'll stay just because, like, I'm a fear of being alone. You know what I mean? So it was kind of like a God thing, that like God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself, that she cheated on me so I could remove myself from that. So I got through that, still doing the music. Everything's good. At this time in my recovery, like, I'm at the point where I'm sponsoring guys, and, you know, it's really, you know, I got to experience that, you know, that part of sponsorship. And it really is true. Like what they say, which I'm sure you probably know, like, they probably helped me more than I helped them. Like what our sponsor said to us before we knew what that meant. So that was pretty cool. And then, so like 5 months after that relationship, I had no intention of getting into another relationship. But for some reason I met this girl, and here's the I guess it could be frowned upon. You know, I ended up getting with a newcomer. I had 4 years clean at the time. And I think she had like 60 days. And, you know, I tried to check my motives. You know, I talked with my sponsor. I talked with people that had clean time. I talked with people that had the same amount of time as me. And the idea of getting with her and staying with her, whatever, was like a 50-50 thing. Like, so I kind of just went with like my heart, right? Because I felt like, you know, I just felt something when I saw her. And I was like, as long as she doesn't get high, we'll be okay, you know? Well, that didn't work. She ended up getting high. And I tried to remove myself from the situation. But a couple times we went back and forth. And the last time I was like, all right, this is it. I can't do this. This is me being honest, telling this part of the story. You know, it's kind of uncomfortable, but it is what it is.
Yeah. No, I appreciate your honesty.
So I'm like, all right, that's it. I can't do this anymore. Then I get a call from her. She was in the hospital. I guess I don't know if she tried to kill herself. She said she did, and she OD'd, and she ended up in the hospital. And she was like, oh, by the way, I'm 7 weeks pregnant. So I'm like, So like, worst case scenario for, 4 years clean, getting with a newcomer. Worst case scenario, obviously, is if she OD'd and didn't make it.
Yeah.
But the other worst case scenario is she OD'd and now she's pregnant. And now what am I supposed to do? Right. So I was like, okay. So she said that she wanted to keep it. And, I was living by these principles. And I was like, you know what? Like, okay, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Like, I played a part. Let's do this, Mm-hmm. So she ended up staying clean throughout the pregnancy. We had our first child. And then it was like, okay, this is really good. Like, a bad thing, something good is coming out of it. And we ended up, so that was like 2015. I had my daughter in June of 2016. She stayed clean. She's doing her thing. I'm still doing the music. Things are still going well. We ended up getting married in January of 2018. She's still clean. Everything's good. We had a honeymoon baby. We had our first. She was our wedding was in January, and we had our second child in October. So it was definitely a honeymoon baby. And then after that, not long after that, I think she dealt with some postpartum stuff, mm-hmm. Which a lot of women go through, even some men. It was really like around the beginning towards the middle of 2019, where she ended up going back out. And that was, that hit me pretty hard, cause like now we're married, we have 2 kids.
How old was your second kid at this time?
When she ended up using?
Yeah.
Probably about 6-7 months. Mm. Yeah, she wasn't even in a year old yet. Which, yeah, so that happened, and like that started to put a strain on our relationship. Just because like this is my way of life. Like I don't get high no matter what. And it was challenging. But I was like, okay, here, look, this is what we do. We've been here before. Let's, but it started being an off and on thing, and eventually it would be our demise. Some things that happened, some things weren't good. Now this is a part like into this where like towards the end she was just using all the time, and I had to make a decision, and it was like, all right, we shouldn't be together, blah blah blah. But then she started getting clean one last time, and like I think this was like we're in like March of 2020, or the beginning of 2020, and it was like right around COVID, right around that time. I came home from work one day, and there was a letter, and she was saying that she wants to split up, whatever, or get a divorce. And again, I'd have stayed in it just to stay in it, and I would have stayed just for the kids, because I didn't want them to go through that. But it was like one of those things again where I feel like it was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. So she ends up leaving. And then I find out a month later that like, and this is the hard part. And this is like, I'm bringing this up now because this is kind of like where I'm at and where I'm trying to get better from now. I'm still dealing with this kind of stuff. But like, you have a best friend in the program, and of 10, 11 years, whatever, has sex with your wife. You know what I mean? And there were other people in the fellowship had sex with her, whatever. So, lo and behold, obviously that was like a really hard blow to take. A lot of betrayal, a lot of feelings of anger, resentment, fear, stuff that I'm like still currently dealing with. But because I had the amount of time that I had and the tools in my recovery toolbox, like I didn't act out. I didn't put my hands on people. I didn't call people out. I went through it with as much grace and dignity as I could. But I stayed on the phone. I stayed around people that I could trust, because, you know, there was some trust that was broken, and it just wasn't anything that I experienced before clean, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially like, I mean, the one guy, the best friend, like was literally there for everything. You know what I mean? He was there the day I proposed. He was there the day my kids were born. He was in my wedding, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, I went through that, and I you know, I got with my people that I know that I could trust, and I got through it. You know, I didn't get high no matter what, because that's just like what I was taught. You know what I mean? And I'm so very grateful that I had the. Let me say this. If I didn't do what I did in the beginning, go to all those meetings and build the relationships that I did, you know, that foundation that they talk about, like if I didn't do that, I don't think that I would have got through this. You know what I mean? Because there were people that I needed to lean on that I didn't know that I was going to need. They were there. When they had heard, like people I hadn't talked to in like 8 years, they're like calling up, checking on me. You know what I mean? Like that solid rock foundation that we get when we first get here. Like it's so important to build those relationships in the beginning. And a lot of that is built by going to a lot of meetings, you know, like that we don't just say do 90 and 90 for nothing, right? Like besides to get into the routine of going to meetings, like we're building these relationships with people that we're, you know, can last a lifetime, you know? So yeah. So not long after that, I told myself, okay, obviously you're not good at this relationship thing, or like, you know, your picker's fucking broken, like obviously. So, so now, you know, we're dealing with 2 kids, separated parents, which I never wanted my kids to have to deal with that. And like I said, I had to stay just to not have them go through that. So now, you know, we're doing the 50-50 split. You know, she's got this dude. Well, he was my friend too. You know what I mean? In her life, then they're getting high together, and I find out. So I have to make some moves, you know, stuff that it's very uncomfortable to do. Like I'm not a, you know, cop caller or, you know, call the state or DCF or anything like that. But when it comes to my kids, you got to do what you got to do, you know? So, my number one thing is to keep them, and what I pray for every single day, still to this day, is to keep them happy, healthy, and safe. And they were not in a safe environment. So,
that's my exact prayer.
Is it really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you serious?
For my wife and my daughter. Yeah. I pray for their health and happiness every day. You know, that's what and you're getting onto your kids, and thank you for sharing all this stuff.
Yeah, man.
I was, you know, with my past, you know, I grew up without, you know, my parents and stuff at an early age. And that's like seeing this stuff from afar on like Facebook and stuff like that. Like, having a daughter and like knowing the love that you have for a kid, like I was just like, you know, I don't even know you well, right? But like it was like heartbreaking to me to see, because I have this like weird ability to like place myself in emotional situations.
It's called empathy. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
I think it's called empathy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. You're
bro.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Let's simplify it, right? Let's not make it juice it up.
Yeah.
And man, it just, you know, that is heartbreaking. It's very commendable, for you to like do all the things that you've done so far, especially going through things with like I've been through breakups in the room and think to yourself, because that like it's going to hurt you later on. It would feel really good to lash out, but like it doesn't help me, in the long run.
No, I didn't do anything because God forbid I end up in jail. Now what happens with my kids?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'm not going to do anything to jeopardize that.
Yeah.
So she's with the guy. I have to, make a move, get DCF involved. The kids got taken away from her for like 30 days. I knew she wasn't done because I know her, how she moves. But they let her, get back again. Well, I find out.
So you're doing a 50-50
split.
So when they're taken away, they're just staying with you the whole time?
Correct.
Okay.
So it was like a 30-day thing or whatever. And then we went back to court and they're like, okay, yeah, she's good, blah, blah, blah. Because, they don't want to keep the kids from the mom. And here's the deal. I never not wanted them to be with the mom. But when it comes to their safety, or them being around any kind of abuse or drug abuse or domestic violence, like it's not okay. It's not okay with me. It's not going to happen. And when I went, I ended up going there, and this is how I was able to get proof. Like I saw how she looked and the environment she was living in, and I recorded it. I filmed it. And I was able to use that in court. And, that was it. I needed something like that to be able to get my kids out of there. So fast forward a little bit, we get back to the 50-50. And then I hear, that there's some things going on. And my kids had slipped a few times. And like, I heard that this guy had put his hands on her or whatever. So I'm like, all right, that's it. Like, I don't care. I don't want my kids around this, whatever. So I got DCF involved again, and then they were literally placed in my custody on February 4th of 2022. And then in July 5th, I was awarded full custody because mom just couldn't get her stuff together. And I hope that one day she does.
Absolutely.
I really do.
Absolutely.
I really do. Because I don't think she realizes, what effect this has had on on our kids. You know what I mean? It's tough and it's challenging. But I gotta back up a little bit because I was talking about the relationships and me not being good at it, and my picker being broken, and I was not looking again. I wasn't looking.
Pattern.
Yeah, bro. But for some reason, this woman was put into my life with about 4 or 5 months after, I think it was March. I ended up talking to this girl in June, July. It was June, definitely June of 2021. And she was one of the people that would come to my shows. She was a friend. We never looked at her like that. Like, it just, something happened, and this is one of those things.
So she's in the rooms.
She's in the rooms.
Okay.
She's in the room. She was in a different area. She was down south a little bit. And always seen her in passing, this cool person, cool chick. We started to hang out, and it was a God thing, bro. Like, there's no other way to explain it. We ended up getting together, and it was not supposed to be us getting together. But it just happened that way. We've been together ever since. The role that she has filled and played, it's not like a normal thing. You know what I mean? Like, I have a lot of baggage. I have two girls. I had the mother of my children, the 50-50 split, like, and she just came in and really stepped up, you know, and just recently over around Christmas time, we right after Christmas we got engaged. I was just like, I'm not letting this one go. It's just amazing, the kind of woman that she is, to come in and help as much as she does. So Rachel, I love you. Yeah, we're gonna get married next year, and really looking forward to it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you, man.
In person.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is a godsend, you know, because we were talking about this before we started. Raising one kid is a lot. It is a lot.
It is.
So to have two, and then also all the circumstances surrounding it, to have somebody come in and help like that is like, yeah.
My life, my kid's life is better because of her. Like, it's just unbelievable. I'm still like blown away every day.
Yeah.
By her, and I always say, like, my hashtag is like grateful for Rachel. And like, you know, I tell everybody, like, she's just like a gift from God, man. Like, it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really cool.
So are you still doing the rapping or no?
No. So that kind of took, so kind of need to put that in there. Where are we at on time?
We don't have no time.
So after I got married in 2018, like, I had one kid, I had one on the way. We had bought a camera for our honeymoon at the time. And little did I know that I was going to end up becoming obsessed with this camera. And like, I transitioned from the music and being obsessive and passionate about that. Like, I started it, like, it kind of just was like this switch. Like, the passion for photography took over the passion for the music. And that was probably a God thing too, because it wasn't fitting my lifestyle anymore with two kids, a wife, you know, having to perform out at late night, and you know, I did a lot in my city. And I think, for like, if I was to stay in it and to continue to grow as an artist, like, I would have had to have hit the road. And it just wasn't, it didn't seem feasible. Plus, I'm an older guy, you know what I mean? Like, I was already in my 40, you know, I had my first kid at 40. So,
yeah,
you know, it just happened the way it did. And, you know, I've been doing photography. My photography start date's January 15th, 2018. And I've been, you know, building on that, you know, so that's kind of been my thing, for the last 5.5 years now. So.
Yeah. And they're awesome. And I think I said that already.
You did
earlier.
I appreciate that.
And I mean it. What is that called? What type of photography is that called?
So, I mean, most of the stuff that I do is, it's called long exposure photography. But I do all kinds of photography. You know, I do wedding, maternity, portrait. I'm really into the drone right now. But what you see, if you're seeing any kind of light trails, or the circle with the fire or the sparks that you see, that's steel wool. So I literally take steel wool, put it in an egg whisk, light it on fire, and start spinning it. And I capture the motion of everything happening within 6 to 10 seconds in the camera. And that's what you see in the picture.
Put down into one photo, one frame, kind of.
That's it. Yep. I just capture what's going on inside of that for however long the shutter stays open.
And does that tend to be your favorite thing that you do?
It has been, like, light trails, like any kind of light passing through the frame, like buses, trolleys, trains, cars, steel wool, any of that kind of stuff. It's definitely something that, like, I love, and it's like my thing. but lately I've been really getting into the drone work, and I've always I mean I've been shooting with a drone since 2019, so I had like, about my first year and a half into photography, I started getting into the drone stuff, and like right now it's kind of like where I'm at, especially with like, I don't know if you've seen any of like the stuff that I put together that look like videos.
Oh, of course,
the hyperlapses. So like, so basically it's photography, but it's putting it into a video, because like I'm taking like 400 or 500 photos, and the drone takes a photo, it moves every 2 seconds, it takes a photo, moves, takes a photo, and then that's like, instead of a time lapse, it's a hyperlapse, because the drone is moving every 2 seconds. And that's where like those videos come from, and like I'm super.
Well, that's
obsessed.
how all videos made, though, right? Multiple pictures.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So, but I'm like a photographer, so like I'm taking photos and I'm compiling it into a video, instead of hitting one button and just recording. Right. But I get it. They are all frames.
Yeah.
But like I'm like super obsessed about that right now.
Yeah. No, it looks super cool. How does people find your work?
Well, all of my social media is fairly the same as far as my photography goes, and it's Rob, ROB _ Palo, PALO _, photography, spelled photography. So Rob _ Palo _ photography's IG, robpalo.com, robpalo.com is my website, and I also have a website for my prints as well, and it's robpaloprints.com.
Okay. Yeah. So people can find you.
People can find me.
Yeah, and I'll get you to send the links and put them in the description and all that stuff. So
yeah, and it's just another passion, man.
Yeah.
Know?
No, I totally get it. Which we were talking on the phone is like, I get into something and just get obsessed with
110%. Bro.
Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta get it perfect. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your experience, strength, and hope.
Absolutely.
It means a lot to me. It really does. I appreciate your support. And you even brought a light
for the
room set up. Get it all going, man.
I appreciate you asking me, and this has been cool to talk with you and get to know you a little bit. And I'm sure this will be like, we'll probably talk more often now, especially like you're doing the podcast and the video stuff. And I look forward to getting to know a little bit more about you as well.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man.
All right,
absolutely.
buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.